The classic car era gave rise to the muscle automobiles of the 1960s. They sprang from the post-World War II explosion of pent-up consumption. It appeared that American buyers choose larger, quicker automobiles overnight. Muscle cars first arose when Fiat, Renault, Datsun, and other new lightweight models like the Corvair, Falcon, and Valiant were being produced in Detroit in an effort to stem the flow of foreign vehicles led by Volkswagen. A mid-sized automobile with a big, strong engine, usually but not always a V8 engine, and unique trim designed for maximal acceleration on the street or in drag racing competitions is referred to as a muscle car. It can be distinguished from sports cars, which were traditionally thought of as smaller, two-seat vehicles or GTs. Let's get to the 10 best of them. Starting at number 10 is the 1967 Pontiac Firebird. Pontiac debuted its renowned Firebird model in 1967, a muscle vehicle with a distinctive look and lots of performance that went on to become even more popular with the following variants produced in the 1970s. The 1967 Firebird is a much sleeker, smaller version of the muscle vehicle that was popular in the 1960s. One of the best things about the 1967 Pontiac Firebird is how many options there were for the engine that went under the car. There were 2 inline-6 engine options to start, in addition to 3 V8 motor possibilities. 165 horsepower from the standard 230 cubic inch 3.8 liter inline-6 was sufficient to propel the lighter muscle car in comparison to its competitors. Coming in at number 9 is the 1969 Dodge Challenger Hemi. The original Challenger, built to compete with the 67 Mercury Cougar, was the perfect pony car for anyone who wanted extra size, power, and luxury of the greatest vehicles available. The Challenger had a whopping 9 different engine options, just like the majority of the muscle vehicles at the time. With a respectable 145 horsepower, the base 3.7-liter inline-6 engine is a fantastic alternative for anyone seeking a more cruiser-style muscle vehicle. However, it was the enormous 7-liter Hemi V8 engine, which generates 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque, that grabbed everyone's attention. When the original Challenger was released, it created a lot of trends with its combination of power and a more attractive, smaller body. Coming in at number 8 is the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. Following the 1964 introduction of the first Mustang, the brand continued to shatter boundaries and establish new benchmarks within the muscle car industry for the remainder of the decade. The Boss 429, a completely new Mustang model, was introduced in 1969. It was believed that the true power, despite the official rating of 375 horsepower, was closer to 400 to 500 horsepower. With 450 pound-feet of torque, the 429 Boss can reach 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds. Which is still very good for a muscle vehicle. It's one of the most sought-after Mustangs available today. Coming in at number 7 is the 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner 426 Hemi. Considered to be among the most sophisticated muscle cars of 1960s, the 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner with the 426 Hemi engine is impressive. The 68 Roadrunner Hemi is uncommon and coveted since it comes equipped with features like power disc brakes and steering. These upgrades greatly improved the car's daily driving experience and made managing the 7-liter V8's enormous power simpler. With the help of this engine, the vehicle could produce an incredible 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the most potent American muscle cars. Number 6. The 1966 Chevelle SS 396. Chevrolet, unquestionably one of the leading brands of the muscle car golden era, was a company that always involved in the muscle car mix throughout the 1960s and beyond. Chevrolet debuted the powerful Chevelle model early in the decade in 1964, and 2 years later in 1966, the automobile reached new heights. The remarkable 396 large block V8 engine, which was only available for a very small number of Chevrolets the year before, was first made standard on the Chevrolet Chevelles in 1966. With 360 horsepower, this engine propelled the Chevelle SS to the top of the muscle car rankings. This kind of power for a mid-sized muscle vehicle was another factor in the 66 Chevelle's SS appeal. It was a blast to drive, but yet useful for daily transportation. At number 5, we have the 1968 Oldsmobile 442. The Oldsmobile Rocket 88, which introduced the muscle car category in 1949, is the company whom the industry owes a great deal. 20 years later, Oldsmobile was still dominating the muscle car market, and their 442 model was maybe the greatest vehicle they had ever made. Leading Car Life magazine refers it to as the handler. The anti-sway bar and the superior suspension contribute to the car's stability, but the big 400 cubic inch engine, which generates 350 horsepower for the base model and 325 horsepower for the automatic, is mostly responsible for the car's performance. At number 4, we have the 1968 Dodge Charger RT Hemi. In the muscle car sector, the Dodge Charger is still quite popular. Much like the Challenger, The 1968 Charger was one of the most adored muscle cars of the decade, and like most of the current variants, it was typified by its enormous size and power. The finest engine choice is usually the 426 cubic inch Hemi V8, which managed to create an incredible 425 horsepower. However, there are other possibilities as well, including the 440 cubic inch V8. With a peak speed of 150 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of 5.6 seconds, the speed accurately matched the size of this choice. Since then, the 1968 Charger has gained even more notoriety in the film industry, most notably for being Dominic Toretto's preferred vehicle in each of the 10 films he has so far directed. Number 3. The 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge. The 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge, regarded by many as the most stylish muscle vehicle of the late 1960s, may be the greatest Pontiac for a variety of reasons. The Pontiac GTO, which has the same Gran Turismo Omologato name as the Ferrari 250 GTO, is comparable to the 250 GTO of the 1960s muscle car era. Originally, the Judge was intended to be a more affordable variant of the base model. This included an improvement in the power-to-weight ratio of the 366 horsepower from the 400 cubic inch V8 engine. The GTO Judge was the most sought-after muscle car of its day because of its brief 3-year existence. And number 2, we have the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona Hemi. When the Detroit-based automaker introduced the Charger Daytona, a Hemi-powered version of the original model of the Dodge Charger in the late 1960s, it was already one of the biggest and most potent muscle cars available. With a powerful 425 horsepower, the 7-liter Hemi V8 engine drove the Charger Daytona to 2 NASCAR championships. The race-focused design of the car, which made it the first NASCAR to reach 200 miles per hour mark in the 1970s, allowed the Hemi engine to be exploited to its most advantage out of all the Hemi-powered muscle cars available at the time. And finally, at number 1, we have the 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500. The Mustang nameplate has seen a great deal of variation throughout the years, including the Boss 429. None, though, can compare to the GT500's heritage and symbolism. In 1967, the illustrious Carroll Shelby collaborated with Ford once more to produce the first ever Shelby GT500, one of the greatest muscle cars ever made. The previous year at Le Mans, Ford and Shelby overcame Ferrari with a great race triumph. The famous GT40 that led the team to the win served as inspiration for the Shelby's GT500's design. The GT500's engine was called the Le Mans Cobra, with the marketing emphasizing the GT40's experience the car can offer, in addition to being lighter and smaller than the majority of muscle cars at the time. With 355 horsepower, the enormous 7-liter 428 cubic inch V8 engine was incredibly powerful for a compact vehicle. The 1967 Mustang Shelby GT500 is still regarded as one of the greatest Mustangs ever made. That's all, guys. Which one was your favorite? Do let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more information.